Joining me right now, author of a very interesting, fascinating book. It's called Flawless, Inside the Largest Diamond Heist in History, thing that happened a couple of years ago. We're joined now by the author of the book, one of the co-authors, Greg Campbell, today. And Greg, thanks for being with us. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Doug. Thank you very much. It's good to be on.
Good to get a chance to talk to you and just having a chance to look through the book a little bit. This is one of those stories, I guess, that it must be kind of fun to write about. I mean, it's a true story, but it has a lot of intrigue in it, so I guess it's almost like a novel as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, the crime that it describes, which is this high-tech robbery of a secure vault in Antwerp, Belgium, where, you know, the heart of the diamond district is, you know, was such a cinematic crime to begin with. It really lent itself to kind of telling the story in a really narrative fashion. So my co-author and I were really eager to kind of set the book up so that the readers were following along with the thieves as they encountered each one of these different security elements that they would then have to figure out a way to overcome or sabotage or work around in some manner or other while they were committing this crime.
And this is kind of like one of those team crimes, right? I mean, a group of guys that did this, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. In fact, they're pretty well known in their hometown of Turin, Italy. They were called the School of Turin. And basically it was a band of very sophisticated jewelry thieves who never resorted to violence. They never strong-armed anyone into giving them the code to the safe or stuck up a place. They always outwitted the security elements of all these various security systems that were in place. So, you know, and each guy had his own specialty. There was an alarm expert, there was a safe cracker, and in the crime in Antwerp, there was the front man, whose name was Leonardo Notarbartolo, and his job was, he was sort of like the deceptive Trojan horse, if you will. His job was to rent an office and pose as a diamond dealer for the better part of 2 years, a little more than 2 years, while he cased the place from top to bottom and made note of all the different security features that he and his group would have to overcome. And, of course, he fed this information back to Italy, where this gang kind of deciphered it all and took it all apart in order to figure out how it worked.
You look at this kind of story, and it almost is hard to believe it happened so recently with all the technological things and that breakthrough. It kind of reminds you of like one of those 1930s movies where you had a wheelman, you had a finger man against, you know, the safe cracker, a guy that would, you know, two-story man that would climb in. And it's kind of hard to believe they can still do heists like that with all the technology they have today. I mean, to protect from something like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But you know what these guys found once they started looking really closely was that many of the measures that they had to defeat were actually kind of old school technology, old-fashioned kind of common sense safeguards that really weren't very high tech at all. As an example, one of the vault door, for instance, this big, heavy, foot-thick steel 1-ton door that couldn't be blown up out of its placement in the wall. It opened by a key and a combination, so, you know, kind of old physical safeguards. But the key, because the door was so big, it had to be really long, so we're talking like a fairy tale style key. And you can't carry that thing around in your pocket all day long, so it's designed so that you can remove the end of the key, the part that actually works the lock. You can take it off and put that in your pocket, and then hang it on the wall, you know, the big part of it, and then later on when you need it, you put it back together again. Well, what they discovered was that at some point in the past, the security guards had stopped taking the key apart. They simply left the entire key in a room right next to the vault. So one of the biggest flaws in the entire security system, the whole setup, was sort of human lackadaisical attitudes about security, because they'd never been robbed before, and they certainly didn't expect to be robbed at this point. So
it's almost like a Mission Impossible episode in a sense, although these were the bad guys instead of the good guys pulling the con. I mean, they were the bad guys that were able to trick the people to think, you know, into being complacent, I guess, right? They just didn't put up the security that they wanted.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, in Mission Impossible, at least in the sense, you know, you're talking good guys and bad guys, we had a hard time as we were writing this book deciding if we liked these guys or not.
Right.
At some point, you really got to like sort of sit back and chuckle and really admire their ingenuity. And we ran across this when we were interviewing police detectives and investigators, and in fact, even some of the victims, some of the people that they'd stolen from, had to sort of grudgingly give them, thumbs up. Say, okay, well, it was a really good crime that you committed, and at least you didn't hurt anyone by doing it, other than, ripping me off, that sort of thing. But they're also, at the end of it, they're sort of exposed as liars and crooks and thieves that they are. But at least these guys are a bit more classy than your average crook.
Now, I don't want to give too much away, but I mean, some of the what they stole has not been recovered, if not all of it. How can a group like this make this into money? I mean, these diamonds obviously are well known. How do you turn that into cash? Did you get an idea of how they do that?
Yeah, I think it would be tricky for me or you to do. If we had a bunch of stolen diamonds, I think that would be a little bit more difficult, but probably not very much more difficult than these guys really know their industry. They know it inside and out, and they know the diamond world. And it became pretty clear to us, especially as we were talking to the detectives who oversee security and crime in the diamond district in Antwerp, that crime is pretty much out of control in the diamond area. There's scams and rip-offs and the little petty thefts that go on among the diamond traders all day long. In fact, so much so that there's a specialized police force that is dedicated to doing nothing but investigating crimes that involve diamonds. And so in that environment, as long as you kind of know the right people and you've been around, as these guys have been for a long time, I think you start to understand which of the merchants can be counted on not to ask too many questions when you want to sell diamonds.
For a small fee, that will keep their mouth closed.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they actually build that in. If you can pretty much expect a rather handsome discount on the price of the diamond they pay. You just sort of take their word for it where they came from.
Well, it's a fascinating book, and it really does read like a novel or perhaps a movie. I guess it's sort of a movie kind of based on it, but not entirely. But this is the actual story. It's called Flawless, inside the largest diamond heist in history. We've been talking with Greg Campbell. Greg, you want to give out a website? People want to get more information on you or the book?
Absolutely, yeah. If your listeners are interested, they can go to flawlessbook.com.
Great. Greg, we appreciate you taking a few minutes and look forward to talking to you again. Thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.